the train come in the station, it had two lights on behind. The blue light was my baby, and the red light was my mind. All my love's in vain.
Is that neat to think that people all over the world are using your invention?
It feels great. We're opening a school in 2 weeks. People are here for training in the Netherlands, and in 4 weeks we'll be opening our school in Australia.
It's called the GEET system, a fuel booster system that connects to any engine. Inventor Paul Pantone says it creates zero pollution. So how does it work? Pantone says the complex pipe system vaporizes the fuel before it reaches the engine, so the soda never actually reaches the engine. To make it run, some gasoline or diesel fuel has to be mixed with the soda. Pantone says it's getting global attention.
From tractors, trucks, all over the world. People are building it, all different shapes, configurations.
And you can download the system's plans for free. For more information on creating your own fuel booster, just log on to casa.com. The Cash for Clunkers program is run. Did you ever consider using soda pop instead of gasoline in your vehicle? We know caffeine fuels people, but cars too. One inventor is taking alternative fuels to the limits and filling up his tank with Mountain Dew, and it works. KRQE News 13's Kelly LaVoy joins us from downtown with more.
Marie, it's an invention to make the world a cleaner place, but people are really having fun with it. Besides soda, how about using coffee or even pickle juice to start up your engine? In front of a dozen onlookers, inventor Paul Pantone showed people what a few drops of dew can do. It's an invention 30 years in the making. It's called the GEET system, a fuel booster system that connects to any engine. The best part, Pantone says, whatever alternative fuel you add, it creates zero pollution. So how does it work? Mountain Dew running an engine? Pantone says the complex pipe system vaporizes the fuel before it reaches the engine. So the soda never actually reaches the engine.
I haven't invented the engine. All I've invented is the fuel delivery system. And this system will fit a gas engine, a diesel engine, a furnace, a boiler. It'll fit anything, including jet turbines.
To make it run, besides soda, gasoline or diesel fuel has to be mixed in with it. But people all over the world are getting even more creative. They're using his invention on tractors and lawnmowers. Back to you.
Thanks, Kelly. And you can download the system's plans for free.
Let me see, any quick comments you can give me about it, as the inventor of the device? How did this idea come to you, I guess?
Oh, that's a whole video. Come on.
Oh, okay. So, but it does use a vortex. It creates a plasma ball, and it is a really unique design. It doesn't have the normal flow through, it seems like, that a regular engine might.
No, we have so far made 197 discoveries that are documentable and replicated. We have 4 that have come in the last week we have not yet been able to replicate. These are from different people who have built GEETs from our plans, and they keep finding more and more discoveries in science. So right now we're at the tip of the iceberg, and I'm going to concentrate starting tomorrow on just writing a book about all the different things.
Well, there were 2 things that impressed me about this device. Again, just as kind of an outsider's perspective, I guess. The first one being, you know, with alternative science stuff, it's always, is this thing a real device? And obviously your device runs, it runs great. The second being, in terms of people who might be saying, well, you know, there's a hoax here, it runs a regular engine. Obviously, you've mixed sugar with gasoline, you run it off water, you run it off all sorts of stuff. As long as there's a little bit of fuel there, it runs great. So we can pretty much rule out any kind of strange stuff that people might accuse you of, right?
Well, we can also use just water if we wanted to, but that's not politically correct.
Yeah.
We can use salt water if we want. Everything is a fuel. If it can be vaporized, it's fuel.
And once it's a plasma, it's all a little bit more combustible than normal.
Well, it is no longer hydrogen or any normal element that's on the atomic chart. We have a new element here. It does not explode, it implodes.
Almost like, almost sounds reminiscent of the hydrinos.
Some people have compared it to a lot of things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Inside, we'll go show you the books in just a minute on all the different things. When you say, well, how do we know this isn't a hoax? Well, if it was a hoax, why would MIT come out and look at this, run back and make one little change? Instead of using the exhaust from the engine, they have an electric heater with a fan behind it, and they got a patent. Millions of dollars for R&D by our great government.
You know, the strange thing, though, is I haven't heard hide nor hair about this from the government, so if MIT has it, maybe they're sitting on it or something.
Well, no, MIT released it about the same time as we had OPEC at our house talking to us. And when they released it publicly in November of 1999, they were attacked by university professors all over Europe who have written letters to the Nobel Prize Committee saying that my wife and I should be nominated for the Nobel Prize.
Well, again, it's highly demonstrable that has street cred.
But then they turned around and attacked MIT saying, you're a bunch of thieves. That isn't yours, that's Paul Pantone's.
You know, I'd heard something similar from Eugene Malove about MIT a while back.
Yes, as a matter of fact, a couple weeks before he was murdered, Eugene called me up and gave me the names and phone numbers of a lot of other scientists from MIT that would probably financially back this. But he said the strings are every university wants to have their name on a technology and they want the inventor's name removed.
Sure.
So he warned me of this ahead of time.
Yeah, but you are nonetheless making wonderful progress with it. It's a wonderful
It's
tool.
now being taught in Paris. There's a classroom over there teaching it. We've had people getting engineering degrees in Europe, but not here. And we're accepted in European universities and not here.
Yeah, I've heard that also with a number of different technologies.
So right now we're gearing up to start worldwide production outside of the United States.
Absolutely. Well, and again, you're Paul Pantone, and this is the GEET technology, and you're online at GEET, GEET.com.
You got it.
When I was released from that facility in Utah, the torture chamber as I call it, I was told I would be lucky if I lived 4 to 6 months. Really? I'm glad you're a doctor and you have your opinion.
Yeah, right.
My opinion is I'm going to be here a long time, so I will take care of getting myself cured. The first thing I did when I got to Oklahoma was to find a place where I could get cinnamon oil, milk thistle, clove oil, 10 drops in here every morning, every lunchtime, every dinner time. 21 days later, I go in for a blood test. So we're looking for hepatitis C, herpes, other things like that, anything you can find. Came back and said, Mr. Pantone, you're in excellent health. That's what I needed to hear, thank you.
You expected, that's right.
He said, why would you think you had all those problems? I said, because that's what I was diagnosed with by 5 different doctors. Oh no, they made mistakes. I said, well, we've got all the panels of blood work that were done and they all confirmed that I had problems. But they wanted to give me interferon and some other stuff that would cause psychiatric problems. Well, I'm sorry, we are a country now that is basing the legal system or illegal system, I think it's called criminal system, the better way of wording it,
Right.
because it is criminals running the system, but we base it all on hypothetical comments made by psychologists, which you can't hold them legally responsible for.
Right.
Well, wait a minute. In any other crime, if somebody does something to you, you can hold them responsible for it. But it's an opinion of that doctor. I don't want opinion, I want fact. I mean, I see some of the people that were treated in that place, and they were being given injections and all this because they opened their mouth and said, but what about my rights? You don't have rights.
Yeah.
That was the most popular comment in there. You don't have rights.
And right now in America, that's happening more and more.
Uninterrupted power source. And now I know what you're talking about. You're talking his language. You guys are way smarter than me.
I teach my technology to little kids that are in 4th and 5th grade. My favorite news letter that I got from a student was a kid that was 10 and his buddy 12 years old, and they built one for class down in Palm Desert, California, and they ran it on Windex and pickle juice. That was the only fuel.
Wow.
Because they weren't allowed to bring gas into the building. So that wasn't my fault or theirs. The school rules said no gas. So when the kid said, well, here's how you start it, here's how you do this, and the cameraman said, well, just humor us. Pull the rope like you're starting it. And when they pulled the rope, they didn't think the engine would start, but it ran. And it ran perfect.
Wow.
So if I can teach it to 10 and 12-year-olds, I can pretty much teach it to anyone.
That's incredible.
Yep.
Hey, Matt, now that you're getting introduced to this technology, and I've talked about Brown's gas, sodium hydroxide, 3% in water with low voltage, splits at 66.6% to 33.3% hydrogen oxygen. And at that range, that specific rate, when it implodes, or it's like used for plasma, like when we found that it will transmute, and Paul, your technology transmutes also, right?
Yes, it does.
Yeah. Oh, you're not supposed to know that, but now you do. But of course, judges say you can't. It's against the law.
The elements is caused partially by the implosion, causing the atomic structure to break down. Whenever you have an implosion, you're going to have a certain type of radiation, but it's confined within the chamber.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's self-generated. Mine is not, you don't plug mine into a wall.
Yeah.
Mine builds its own field.
That's incredible.
Well, yeah, but then the Brown's gases, for example, what we're looking at and what we've got to be able to educate our viewers here is that they need to know about this stuff. We're in an extinction event with Fukushima, people, and plus you got nutcases. These guys aren't even the level of drunk chimpanzees, but they got all the money on planet Earth. And in the meantime, you know, and so what we're dealing with is we have to somehow like take control of the 747 away from these drunk chimpanzees, literally. And the only way we can do it is to know anything, which is part of this. And we need to be able to go from this point forward, knowing about ways that we will be able to help keep civilization alive. This is a civilization extinction event. And they need to know about plasma technology. They need to know that it exists. How does it exist? It creates a base by which knowledge can go from here to help humanity survive past these events that these whatever have created all over planet Earth. Who knows why, but they have. And we, you know, say we, it ain't us. It's not, we're not them. They're not us. We're just the people. I call us, we're the shaples that go along with it. But in the meantime, what we need to get up to speed on soon, how does this technology not only apply to helping create agriculture, cannabis, whatnot, how can it be used for water filtration to be able to clean, plasma filter nuclear contamination out of the water? And I know that GEET, Paul, GEET technology can be used for plasma filtration, right?
Yes.
Of water, I guess. Yeah.
By turning that contaminated water into fuel.
Yeah.
And then burning the fuel in a plasma generator.
Right.
You're breaking it down to a pure element, and the heavier elements are gone.
Right. Right. And then,
Wow.
and then, hey, Matt. Yeah. Now, take note. This is stuff that's got to be known at this time because people don't know that they can use technology like this to be able to filter water, which is now going to be all contaminated, and that filter water for what Brown's gas. You've got George Wiseman, Eagle Research. He's incredible what he's been doing. George has found that not only is the Brown's gas water 100 times more hydrated than normal, which is amazing. How does that happen? But it does. And that water itself will probably help us live 3 or 4 times normally longer than we normally do and defy that law. And then plants that grow 4 times bigger and longer, all that kind of stuff. because it's all a different form of physics that's now being applied that we need to at this time, and be aware that we can. And at the same time, it's all these mandatory. We need to know how to create a filter that filters out nuclear contamination. We need to now.
The biggest problem is we have built a system, and it's not just America, it's not just Canada, it's all the countries that work together to set the system up where universities have to make all the good decisions, and they get all the funding and all the R&D and all the equipment to do it.
Yeah.
And unless you want to play the game through their program, they're going to hold you back.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sabotage everybody.
The first option there is the government gets first option to take your technology. And I'm not going to give it to them. I'm here to help mankind, not a government.
Right.
The government hasn't done anything for me, and I'm not going to do anything for them.
Yeah. Yeah. I understand what you're saying, because it's a private corporation. People don't know any of what they pulled off on us. As Jordan Maxwell talks about our birth certificates being notes on Wall Street. How does that work? Who's cashed in on us? You know? Hey, Matt, real quick, I know you got to get going. And Paul, what I'm going to say is, let's put this as a kind of a thing that's too important not to think that we don't need to do more about it. Am I right? It's very important.
I agree. This plasma technology is way too important to just shuffle aside and
I agree.
Yes.
So, all right, so this is a project that's being put together. Anybody out there that's watching, maybe one or two of you if there is, and pay attention. This is important. We are in an extinction event. We need to know this technology exists. There have been people that have put down an architecture for people to say, if we don't pay attention, we won't exist. Matt.
My name is Paul Pantone. Welcome to GEET Technology. What you just saw was a 250 kW generator with a 480 horsepower Waukesha engine. The engine was set up to run about 50% cooler than normal so that you didn't need a radiator. At the same time, it was set up to run, instead of on diesel or natural gas, it's set up to run on a waste product. It's used engine oil, transmission fluid, and many other products. The next thing we're going to show you is some of the prototype work we've done on other engines, beginning with a Ford Pinto. That only got 88 miles to the gallon. On that Pinto, as well as Suburbans and other vehicles that we've retrofit, we always started out with single blocks, and we kept trying to get better and better, more improved. This is one of the models we built for a 350 Chevy with the bubbler, air management control, everything in one piece. That was excellent for farm use, but we needed something smaller to go under engines. We chose this design. This has butterfly valve at top and bottom to control the air-fuel ratio. This can also be built very inexpensively so that we can retrofit every car in America in 2 or 3 different sizes. This is the larger size for your 6-cylinder and V8s, and this is a smaller unit which would be for your 3- and 4-cylinder vehicles. We'll be showing you a 3-cylinder Geo here in just a minute, which has had a high mileage on that of 120 miles. I just showed you the air management control valve. This is mounted to a Geo Metro. This car has had a high mileage rating so far of 120 miles to the gallon instead of the 46. This mixes the air and fuel as you hit the gas pedal and push down air. Both valves will open simultaneously. The vapor is pulled from this tube all the way from the very bottom of the exhaust pipe in the opposite direction of the exhaust. The vapor for this system is done with a simple carburetor off a lawnmower. Again, only 120 miles to the gallon. We're going to show you a 350 Chevy pickup truck that is retrofit with a wooden carburetor. We call this our...
Hello, this is our dealer demo unit. I have Paul Mork here as my assistant, and we're going to show you how this dealer demo works. This is our bubbler. We use this instead of the phase change carburetor to atomize our fuel. Fuel vapors come up out this bubbler into this hose into our reactor with hot exhaust going against the cool vapors, which causes the reaction to happen, and the GEET gas comes out of this hose into this T right here where we adjust fresh air going into the engine. So let's add some sugar to this fuel tank. Something I'm sure your dad told you never to put in the gas tanks. This is water, straight water. You got some water here. The engine is like Pepsi too.
What about news? How come we're not covered? How come ABC, NBC, all of these programs you see on TV, how come they're not here? Well, let me show you a typical news clip. This was filmed in Arizona at one of the last conferences we did.
Do you drink a soda to get a bit of a jolt? Well, now it seems that Mountain Dew can also give a jolt enough to power up an engine. No kidding, folks. This engine is powered mostly by Mountain Dew, along with a bit of gasoline. It's just one of the displays at the Exotic Research Conference 2000. The exhibit features many inventions like this lawnmower engine designed to run on alternative fuels and significantly reduce pollution.
Cars, being able to get 100 miles a gallon. How about semis that can get 30 or 40 miles to the gallon? Or motorcycles, where you only have to fill it up once every 4 fill-ups. We have the ability to clean up our planet. We have it right now.
If you'd like to check out these inventions, they will be at the Mesa Holiday Inn through Sunday. What do you think about that? An engine powered by Mountain Dew. Well, the week...
As you've seen on that news clip, if you look at it at the very bottom, it says Crazy Inventor. As we approached ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, all the rest of the stations, Christian Broadcasting, Discovery, all of them had the same feeling, that if it threatens the economy of oil companies and is something practical for your use, they're not interested.
Now, as far as the proposals with the Fukushima runoff, the plasma technology, not only developed by Gil Brown, the hydroxy stuff, the type of technology you developed, and we've notified them right after it occurred, and they wouldn't listen, would they?
Oh, I've offered it to Fukushima people, I've offered it to BP, and they said, no, get the heck off our beach. If you come back, we'll have you arrested. People over in Japan said, I'm sorry, we're only working with our own companies and people that are up in politics that approve things. And yours isn't approved for any country that uses Federal Reserve notes.
Yeah.
So I've got the same response from Chernobyl, from every place where this is coming from. We are not interested in your help. Stay away.
I'm just mentioning, Paul, that about the experiments about being able to transmute the elements or even growing rare minerals and metals, for real. And Pantone plasma technology, that's all right. That's all part of it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. People don't know, you know. Maybe now that they do, maybe a few of those future students will start showing up to learn this. This is important. We're in a time period where these crooks could take tungsten steel and plate it with gold, you know, micron level thickness of gold, and make you think it's a gold bar, which they've now polluted the entire gold industry that way, and emptied Fort Knox. And I try to tell people, I said, well, now you know that you could just simply grow the gold back again and fill Fort Knox up, grow it back. I mean, for real. I mean, people, where are we? Where have we been for thousands of years? Where's our minds? You know, we can do this. You know, we can create what we need. Right, Paul?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just suggestions in your classes. You could show people how to transmute things like that. I'm sure, you know, right?
Well, there are certain things we are not talking about publicly because we really don't want the government coming down on my door again.
I know, I hear you on that.
I just spent 3.5 years locked up in maximum security because there were things I was talking about and doing that the government did not allow.
Right. But then, yeah, I agree with you on that. But if people are like aware, they're awake, just be aware, people. They're bankrupting the world. They're using nanotechnology on all of us everywhere possible. Even the chemtrails. I mean, it goes on. They want to create super toxins, and they want to experiment on us while they murder us. And who knows what type of neuroeconomic electronic warfare they're using as well. But hey, Paul, so in preparing a person's house, a person's community, let's say where do they start? Like a Pantone, where would you first use Pantone plasma? For water, for power, where would you start?
Because it's illegal to use water as a fuel that would replace gasoline, unless it falls under the 1951 National Security Act, I would probably teach people how to use gasoline or whatever their current fuel is and just get a 50% improvement.
Yeah.
So in the classroom, we do teach more than that, but we're not sending that out publicly.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is good. I mean, you got to start somewhere and kind of go along with the way they are and all that kind of stuff. So in gasoline, meaning you would apply it to like using it on the car, cutting back on fuel consumption, 50%. I can do that with hydroxy gas as well. There's all kinds of people on YouTube show you how to do that. There's just one way. It's infinite, people, if you can deal with that. But like, for example, how to adopt it to getting more gas mileage, right? That'd be one way, right? Paul?
What?
Use it for getting more gas mileage. Kind of get to know it. Get to know what you're doing without upsetting the establishment too much, right?
Yeah. You can't do it without upsetting the establishment too much.
Right. Right. Because, you know, the Gestapo, the Nazis, you know, we keep letting them in the White House under the Bush name. And by the way, now on an international level of how we think of Pantone plasma physics, Paul, let's say I want to go forward and I'm going to start working with the cannabis community, right?
Yeah.
And I want to use some Pantone technology. In that sense, from my standpoint, when I had to write the help write the Organic Farm Bill, it's kind of the same thing. It's like, how do we begin to write laws, regulations, and codes on how new, or let's say technology that's not customary technology, applies, because we have to write standards and laws and codes and stuff as we build an industry. So there would fit into that kind of what we have to do. So where do we start to write those codes? Where would you recommend that we write codes? Let's say if we're going to use it for, you know, gas extension. You got to say this is how, that not just how it works. It works real well. But I've got to write a code and a law and a thing saying that, but this is what a county or a state or a native tribe might want to write into their books, operating this technology in their jurisdiction. Okay?
Well, the states are in on it with the feds. It's not just about state tax, it's federal tax for road repair money.
Yep.
If everybody started getting too good a mileage, they wouldn't have money to repair the roads.
Yeah.
And you don't want to build good, high-quality roads. They want to keep building roads that use a lot of oil products to perpetuate our need for oil.
Right.
So as long as the government that we now have is in place, we're not going to get new laws written. Even down to the local level, when they start getting interested in the city or county, all of a sudden they're told by higher people, no, you can't do that.
Yeah.
And then the feds come in and say, no, absolutely you're not going to do that. We don't want roads that will last 100 years. We got to have guys out there holding a shovel and people holding stop signs up. We can't do things in logical, practical order that last a long time. We have to have built-in obsolescence.
Yeah.
You know, I'm glad you brought that up. Because one of the things that really bugs me about the way the economic system is set up these days is it doesn't have to be this way. And you lived in Utah among all the Mormons, the Latter-day Saints, right? And you know I'm the foul-mouthed prophet. I understand a few things about my scriptures and about how the world works and whatnot that disqualify the people who are on the show from running the show. And see, because here's the thing, man, if we all just follow the scriptures as they are laid out for us, and see, you being an inventor, I know this for a fact, because I've sat in your living room and we discussed where you got your inspiration. It's the same with all inventors who come up with something over Unity. All they do is they study the scriptures and apply it to their studies, or they study nature and discover that essentially it is the same thing that the scriptures they say themselves. Now Mormons, that Judge Royal, as in noble, yeah, this guy, I know, I'm absolutely positive this guy is Mormon. And what did he do to you when you come up with something that could change the economic way things happen? They put you in jail, and they put you. They put you on psychotropic drugs. They drilled holes.
No, they wanted to, but when I first got to the Utah State Hospital, I talked to the guards immediately how to build GEET, to go home and prove to them I'm not nuts, it works, then come back. If I'm not right, hold me down and give me a shot. Well, once the guards went home and started putting it on their Jeeps and their motorcycles and their generators, they were coming back going, hey, this guy's real. He's a political prisoner.
Mm-hmm.
He's not crazy. He's here for other reasons. Somebody put him here.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody doesn't want this knowledge out there. One of the guys came back and said he put it on his father's motorhome. And he didn't want his name ever mentioned again for fear that they'd find the motorhome. But it was getting a lot better than 50% improvement.
See, now, I know that you've actually taken one of your gadgets to BYU and had them analyze the gas that comes out, and they gave you a nice technical report, but they would never back it up. They even told you point blank, yes, we certified...
They told me that if I dared go public with mentioning their name, they would sue me.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to a local reporter there at Deseret News and said, hey, I was down at BYU, and this is what they found. Clean, fresh air coming out the tailpipe.
Mm-hmm.
With more oxygen than they have in the room.
So,
he came down and talked to the scientists, and they said, nope, he was never here.
Yeah, see, that's what bugs me about Mormons is the scriptures lay out exactly how we're supposed to behave.
I reported to call back, and I asked him if he could get Dr. Steve Jones back on that phone and ask him to look under the front leg of his desk. My DNA is on that cigarette butt.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll bet that we can get down there and show a lot more cigarette butts, because I was smoking on that campus.
Mm-hmm.
In the laboratory, and I had cigarette butts everywhere. So he called back and said, hey, look under your front leg of your desk. And he pulled the first cigarette butt out, and he said, that son of a bee. At that point, the reporter knew I was there and I was telling the truth.
Mm-hmm.
But when it's a newspaper, I got calls from the attorneys representing BYU. And they said, don't ever mention BYU again. I said, well, with an invitation like that, I'll talk about BYU on every radio show I do for the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I, being the wild Mormon and actually believing my scriptures and understanding the importance of accountability, I look at that behavior and I wonder, why should anybody else on the planet ever want to be Mormon? I mean, the scriptures are pretty replete with how to keep people accountable, the integrity, honesty, all these principles that Mormons are supposed to uphold. But you know, as soon as they get a little bit of clout, all of a sudden all that integrity and talk of choosing the right, it all goes by the wayside. You know.
The professor involved finally called me up and told me what happened. He said the man who writes his paycheck gets his paycheck from the government.
Mm-hmm.
And what they teach at the university has to be government approved.
Mm-hmm.
There is no such thing as a Christian school.
Mm-hmm.
You may think it is, but if it says 501c3, it is controlled by the government.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't do what you're told, or you go beyond what you're allowed to, they'll take away all your credentials.
That is absolutely correct. Now, here's another interesting thing about credentials and whatnot. all churches that are 501c3, they also have, well, I'm not sure all of them do, but most of them, including the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, there is a corporation of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Now, you can't go around having a corporation without having somebody own that darn thing. You know what I mean? So somebody has got to own the corporation for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. My question to you is, who do you suppose owns it?
I have no clue.
Because if it turns out that I, as a church member, actually own part of that corporation, then it's completely inappropriate for them to tell me to leave church because it's my property. Aside from the fact that the scriptures say you're not supposed to kick anybody out of church anyway, but hey, what do you expect? I'm the foul-mouthed prophet, and that's exactly how they treated Jesus, right? As soon as he started reading scriptures that other people didn't want to read, all of a sudden they want to kick him out of synagogue. They tried to throw him off a cliff. So that explains why I'm so popular, and the fact that you're preaching the gospel of alternative understanding of the universe, heck, that's enough reason to hang you at the stake, or hang you at the stake, burn you at the noose. Yeah, treat you like Galileo or Copernicus or whoever else comes along with something that nobody else wants to hear, you know what I mean?
Been there. But we hit this over and over, and they were trying to say I was doing securities fraud. Well, they did a couple of photo lives themselves in the courtroom. One was the judge did, and we have the tape recording right up on the internet. Anybody can go to GeekFriends.net and hear the judge saying, in my courtroom, I make the law. You do not have constitutional rights, and your Bill of Rights do not apply, and I'm not going to let you fire me or your attorney.
Yeah, that doesn't sound very forthright, much less legal. I mean, there's a difference between...
Judge Boyle Hanson turned towards my attorney and he said, who do you work for? And he said, well, I work for you, Your Honor. I just took his money to make him happy.
Wow.
I'm sorry, that takes some pretty big colonists.
Yes, it does. It's essentially admitting that the whole system's a scam.
From me $40,000, $50,000 and say, oh, you owe me more. When he didn't represent me and tells the judge, no, I don't represent him.
Well, that's the way it is, man. People don't get this, but the Bar Association, that's short for British Aristocratic Regency. See, since the War of 1812, we lost that war, man. The British have essentially owned all the courts ever since then. That's why we have corporations of states instead of actual states. Lewis Ewing and Kurt Reagan, these guys, you know, Native American tribal lawyer type material, these guys have actually gone to Washington, D.C. They ferreted out all those documents that were never supposed to have been approved by Congress, I mean the Congress of the United States, that actually were, you know, and they've actually demonstrated that the entire system is a scam. I mean, every courthouse you step into is actually owned by some sort of financial corporation whose entire job is to milk money out of the people who walk through those doors. That's why some guy who calls himself a judge and whose parents call him royal says it's okay to make the law in his courtroom. Because see, when you walk in there, you're essentially saying, okay, you have some sort of domination over me. You know, that United States flag with the gold trim.
I'm sorry, that man is beneath me. I wouldn't let him carry my used toilet paper. He has shown me what kind of a human being he is.
Yes,
he's not worthy of being a judge.
But you know, that's exactly...
He's not worthy of being part of the church.
Yeah, exactly, I hear you. I mean...
He truly should not be in charge of the ethics committee for all judges.
Yes, and you know what's funny about that word ethics is Plato coined that word ethos. And when he coined the word ethos, he was talking about man's relationship with man in relation to his duty to God. And he wasn't talking about a Roman or a Greek or a Persian god when he was talking about it. He was talking about Tetragrammaton, the god of Judah, the god of Israel. That's who he was referring to. Because see, even the Greeks, they understood a little thing about karma, you know, the caduceus. That's a very Eastern teaching right there. So it's not like these are new things. You go put yourself in charge, well, I don't know who put him in charge of ethics, but especially to be Mormon and claim that you're a man of God and walk around with the title of in charge of ethics on your shoulder, boy, what sort of hypocrisy does that take? And what do you suppose the Bible says about people who do that? This is what the scriptures say about people in the last days, the leadership of churches. They will draw near to me with their tongues, but their hearts are very far from me. God also says that in that day, people, when he returns, people will say, Lord, Lord, did we not do miracles in thy name? And he will say, I do not know ye. You know, so that's what we have when we talk about people like Royal Hansen, Thomas S. Monson, any of those 12 unaccountable bastards in the Quorum of Apostles, you know, and they are all, in my opinion, they're all garbage, man. They're pieces of shit. If you don't volunteer to do the right, if you have to be compelled to do the right, you're not doing the right. You know, you're a slothful servant. You might as well not be a servant at all. You cost the master more by walking around in his garb, in his house, claiming to do his works, than if you were actually out in the streets with the enemy and being the enemy openly. You know, it's like Cicero says, the plague is the traitor, right? Because the traitor looks like you, he sounds like you.
You'd really appreciate this. I think what put the frosting on the cake to get me arrested was a guy named John Huntsman showed up at my shop, John Huntsman Jr., up in Idaho.
That ran for president, that John Huntsman?
Yeah, he was governor of Utah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that governor. He showed up at my school and wanted to know if I would consider working with the Huntsman family. And letting them run my technology.
Yeah,
and
right.
I did not know that was John Huntsman.
Hey, Paul?
I'd rather work with Satan. I would trust him more.
Hey, Paul, we have a guest here with us, Janet Christian O'Brien. She's a private detective here who I've been doing a series with, Eyes on Predator Guardianship, and we've been covering corrupt judges. And you mentioned about your judge, and then what court jurisdiction was that in? What was the name of the judge? What was the name of the lawyer that you mentioned? And he had Janet. This is Paul Pantone.
Hi, Paul. I investigate bad judges.
The judge is Judge Royal Hansen. But all the attorneys I met down there were just about as crooked as can be. My favorite crook would have been, I think he was about third or fourth to last. That was Gil Affey, and we have him on tape too. I called him up and told him I moved from one house to another because my wife and I have broken up over this whole issue with the state, and I had gotten my own property, and he had my phone number. He went in front of the judge 2 weeks later and told the judge that I had moved, I had changed my phone number, and I didn't have anywhere being reached. So they put a $100,000 bail for my failure to appear.
Oh, my God.
When I found out that, I called my attorney up and taped the call and said, Gil, what is going on? You know where I'm at. He says, yeah, so what? I forgot. I said, well, would you like to appear in court and get that bail withdrawn? He said, no. You either give me $25,000 extra or I'm hanging you.
That's horrible. That's just simply horrible.
Yeah.
That's how attorneys do it. They hold you against your will, and they seize all your assets, and then you have no defenses.
Right. They stole everything I owned.
And that's what they do. They just come after you for their own personal pleasure.
Yep.
Amazing, Paul. And there's no rebuttal.
And we're really happy that you're on the show today because your information is very, very important to the public. You know, we want to hear from you.
I also filed in federal court, and when it got to federal court, they said they wouldn't even hear the case.
I know, it's just horrible how federal court eliminates pro se's.
You through the judge.
Yeah. Or your documents just disappear.
He was served on the bench.
Yeah.
You can't legally serve a judge on the bench. You have to serve him at home. We couldn't find out where he lived at that time. So we had him served in person on the bench. And he accepted the document.
Well, like it or not.
And he made reference to it just before he released me.
Wow.
But we're giving a court record that he was served. How can he say he wasn't served? Because he's a liar.
Yeah, they lie all the time. And the problem is that service is one of those things that they can say, I wasn't served, and then the case goes away. I mean, it's horrible.
Yeah.
And then you don't get your day in court. You have no due process whatsoever.
Now, what was pissing me off the most, excuse my French.
No, I'd like to hear from you.
I was asking, how is it possible that you can have a psychiatrist who's going to sit up there and say, it's my opinion that this person is delusional? I'm like that. I can prove I'm not delusional. So you're going to take fact over, or an opinion over fact. I don't have to look at your facts.
And that's how they attach your assets. That's how they attach your life, and that's how they put you under control of the jurisdiction of the court.
And like it or not, that's the nature of the society we live in. It's tyranny. It's selective enforcement of whatever rule the people in power decide to enforce that day. That's the issue I have with Mormons. They decided to break up my family because they could, because it was popular at the time to take children away from parents who smoke pot. Yeah, I smoke pot. I use it medically. I had all of the documentation anybody would want, but still, my priesthood leaders ganged up on me to take my family away. And as soon as my family is away, what do? They paint you as the bad guy. They say, well, look, he's using drugs. Of course I'm using drugs. I have an endocannabinoid system. If you're not smoking pot out there, you're working at a serious disadvantage just with your immune system, because the stuff, it does work miracles. And if you didn't have an endocannabinoid system, you wouldn't be able to get high. And for Pete's sake, Genesis chapter 6 says every good herb of the field. So who decided it was okay to take away from me my right to do anything with any plant that comes of the field? Now, when they go telling you that you're incompetent, well, that's a subjective opinion. If we go around letting people with subjective opinions run the world, well, hell, well, that's how we ended up where we are. I hate to say it this way, Janet,
but you're only incompetent if you have money they want to take.
Well, yes.
You're not incompetent if there's no money involved. Yeah.
That's
If there's absolutely no issue here, there's no money, there's no reason for them to quiet you, then they wouldn't go about it in that way.
After all, I mean, think about this. Psychiatry, the entire field of psychiatry has been banned in 55 countries. Now, did 55 countries ban it because it was a good idea? No, they banned it because a bunch of nerds in lab coats with stethoscopes and clipboards start ruining people's lives. They start kidnapping people from off the street, telling them their name is something different, shoot them full of drugs, and they never get out. And then those people are used as statistics to justify support from the state, you know, some sort of socialist, let's get the crazy people off the street, do-gooder nonsense campaign that all it does is it helps us pave the road to hell. See,
that's like the lobotomies they used to do. They used to kidnap you into a mental hospital and do a lobotomy, and then you're gone forever.
Yes, but they're still doing that. People think that has stopped. No, as a matter of fact, shock therapy is coming back.
I've seen guys come in there to talk to you and hold a conversation on Monday, and by Thursday or Friday, they couldn't tell you their own name.
Mm-hmm.
They'd walk around just looking, going, and they sleep 16, 18 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
It's just scary. It's scary what you can have happen to you in different states without any rights whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
Like in Florida.
What was the worst about being at the Utah State Mental Hospital was when I called the FBI and the police, they finally showed up after a month and a half. And I said, I witnessed a murder. I don't know why you guys couldn't get here sooner, but this poor Indian kid was beat to death in the hallway.
A murder?
And they smiled at me and said, sir, you don't understand. You're in the Utah State Mental Hospital.
And we're not going to listen to you.
We have no jurisdiction in this building. It's owned by a foreign corporation, like almost all prisons in the United States.
That's why Federal Bureau of Prison doesn't investigate. It's just scary. It's scary what they can do without anybody knowing and without a voice. So it's radio stations and TV stations like this that I'm glad you're calling so that people can hear about your story.
Oh, I used to do my own radio show every week, Sunday morning, calling Molly Hill. Worldwide Christian Broadcasting. Did it for 3 or 4 years. We had a great time doing it, a couple hours every Sunday morning. And then all of a sudden, bang.
They put you off the air.
We wanted to get out of it because I was getting calls from all over the United States, mostly from Utah and Colorado, of people who said, my husband, my brother, my sister disappeared.
And that happens a lot in Colorado.
Side of the road, they were arrested, but we can't find them.
Yeah, they disappear. Yeah. And they're never accounted for.
Oh, no, some of them come back 2, 3, 4 years later.
Or 10 years later. Yeah.
And they didn't tell me what I was being arrested for, but they put me in jail and they gave me a hearing, and they just released me 3 years later. Just took me back to where my car was parked and let me live.
Are you familiar with the black site that's just been uncovered in Chicago?
No.
Well, it's essentially the same thing as a CIA black site, only it's in the heart of Chicago. It's at Homan Square, right? And apparently there was a big protest against it on Sunday. But when the protesters showed up, most of them from not from Chicago, They were interviewing people in Chicago and asking them if they knew what went on in this building, and nobody knew. And that's the nature of the tyranny, man. They disappear you. They disappear you because you've got stuff to say, and they don't want the rest of the cattle to be spooked, right? So they take the ones that look a little bit rebellious, get them out of the way, make them disappear, shut them up. Because see, like just like the guy in V for Vendetta said, ideas are bulletproof. You can't go killing an idea. You have to kill people before the idea gets out. Once the idea is out, and once the idea is popular, there's nothing you can do to stop it from overtaking everything that they've built. And the people that run the show have built up a system of tyranny and evil. So the only way for them to avoid recompense to the rest of us is to keep us oppressed, to keep us from overcoming, to keep us from speaking to each other and at least realizing what situation we're in. It's like this. If the sheep knew that they were pulling up to a slaughterhouse, they wouldn't have followed each other in, would they?
Right.
Yeah.
And we are the sheep. So we've got to keep our voices strong, and we've got to keep talking.
By the way, Paul, did you meet when you were involved with this? They put you in jail for 4 years, right?
Yep.
And they tortured you while you were in there in the Utah State Prison? Utah?
Pictures of that are up on GEETfriends.net. I had all my teeth when I was looking in there, and 2 days later they drove out every tooth in my head, so they were all hollow. They said if I didn't sign my patent over to the state, I would be in horrible pain. And it took about 3-4 months, and I had 28 abscesses at the same time.
And how are you now? Are you getting medical attention?
And it's painful to walk, but I'm still up and running.
Oh, good, good.
And for as far as classes now, about things that I think we as the American people need to equip our knowledge bank with, as economic collapse.
Oh, geez, it's been horrible.
Yeah, give us an idea. Where would you start Pantone plasma technology once the collapse has really gotten to the point of it's here, it's happening?
When you come here to my class, I teach you a lot more than that. We actually do get into some of the scriptures, but I don't teach theology.
And how do people get a hold of your class? How do people take it?
Yep.
How do people find you?
On my website, GEETinternational.com.
G-E-2-C. Yep. And it's
International.com.
Yeah, we're rebuilding.geetinternational.com.
That'll get you there too.
Yeah. And
But I teach how the Bermuda Triangle works, how to heal yourself in many ways. When I was released from the Utah State Hospital, they said I had herpes and hepatitis C so bad I wouldn't live 4 months. And I took clove oil, cinnamon, and 3 weeks later I went in for a blood test, and it came back negative. I don't have anything.
Right.
So everything I had is gone. I got a good fresh start in life there. The work I did on my right foot to a broken toe is wrong. The metal came loose, so now every time I take a step, I hear it. Other than that, I'm in pretty good health. I got a cough right now, which is given to me courtesy of Monsanto and other products that farmers use in California, and it's called valley fever. It settles into your lungs, and there's no known cure. So it's only killing about 150 people a day.
Yeah.
And it's because of the food.
No, it's because of the dust. Particles in the dust cause a fungus in your lung that cannot be cured. By anything we found so far.
That's called valley disease?
Valley fever.
Valley fever.
Yeah.
And what states do you get it in? Or do you get it everywhere?
Well, originally it was just the San Joaquin Valley in California, but with Monsanto spreading everywhere else now, any place where it's a dusty area where you get it in the soil when you're plowing the fields, you can get it into your lungs by breathing it in any warm climate.
Wow.
So throughout Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, and San Joaquin Valley, it's very prominent. There are 2 doctors set up with the CDC, one in Bakersfield, the other in Phoenix, Arizona, that specialize in treatment of this. So they're testing everybody they can. But they have found that if they give you antibiotic, it usually kills you within a few days. Other chemicals and things they give you kill you. So you're better off coughing the stuff up rather than going to a hospital.
And it attacks the lungs and it gets thick in the lungs?
It causes a real heavy mucus in the lungs. Now, if you take a mucus suppressant that builds up, it just shuts off so you have no breathing ability. If you don't cough it up, then you start choking.
And how do you help yourself with this thing?
Well, I'm using all kinds of things right now, experimenting. I've done everything from silver to herbs, inhalants, all different kinds of things, all natural.
Wow.
That's really good. That is good. We've got Alex here. Alex, you had a statement about something about seeds or something?
So, whoa,
go ahead.
Hear me?
Go ahead. We can hear you.
Okay.
I think.
So,
Yeah,
can
go
you
ahead.
Hear me?
Yeah. Go ahead, Alex.
Okay, so basically, recently over the last couple years, Territorial Seeds, which is a popular seed catalog here in the Northwest, has now been purchased by Cyanetta Seeds. Cyanetta Seeds are similar to Monsanto's and Cargill, so the people in the Northwest really relied on that particular magazine, especially me, because I have old copies of it, to give them reliable heirloom seeds that were non-GMO seeds. So the people in the Northwest, they probably are aware, a lot of people, they keep track, but others are not. So it's Cyanetta Seeds. And Cyanetta Seeds also has connections to seed companies as well. Or correction, to pharmaceutical type companies. And so I have to do a little bit more research on that, but I got a brief article and I read it, but from my understanding they are connected to some of the flu vaccinations, some of the measles vaccines. I don't know how they come up with this, but they're also connected to, well, Bill Gates. Oh, hey, are you guys aware of the new sanitation plan that Bill Gates came up with?
Tell us.
We should
Tell us
talk
about
that while he's trying to kill black people in Africa. So this is the new thing. About 3 months ago, Bill Gates, he released it on YouTube, a couple other people, us conspiracy truth peer people. We also released it out through Dabu77, a couple other people that I know. Basically what this is a desalinization plant. And what it is that it uses feces. And he takes and he makes it into energy, and he takes and he gets the water out of it. And the best part is he's saying that the water is safe for the Africans to drink. Now we know that if you get on the Greyhound bus, you can't drink the gray water. Has he tested this water? He took this water and he opened up the little thing, took a little glass of it, Mr. Bill Gates, and took a quick swig of it, not enough to kill him, God forbid that, but just enough to, just for show. I call it a spit sip.
Yeah,
that's what he did.
This is what they're doing in Southern California right now. But anyway, go ahead, John. I'm good. Well, as far as like water filtration, Paul, I mean the technology's plasma technology, right?
I'm sorry, you're cutting out again.
About plasma water filtration, as we're talking about Los Angeles right now, and that's what they're talking about, recycled gray water, right?
Yeah, but
yeah.
we know.